A Geological Disposal Facility, or GDF, is the safest permanent way to dispose of our most hazardous radioactive waste. NWS is working with communities in the search for a suitable site for a GDF. And after considering various constraints within search areas, smaller areas of focus have now been identified. Site evaluation studies in and around these areas play a key role in supporting NWS's decision, which requires Secretary of State approval on communities to take forward to site characterisation. Site characterisation is where we look at the geology relative to the area of focus and see if it's possible to safely build a GDF. It involves different types of studies, such as desk-based, surface-based, and intrusive, which involves physically looking at rocks below the ground. Desk-based studies involve analysing existing data about the area to get a better understanding of the geological features. Surface-based assessments, like seismic surveys, allow us to build a more detailed picture of the area's geological characteristics. They also make it easier to work out what we need to investigate next. We also use intrusive investigations, such as drilling boreholes. These allow us to physically examine the conditions far beneath the surface by collecting rock core samples from deep underground and taking measurements from inside the boreholes. The exact locations for borehole drilling will depend on technical requirements, as well as engagement, consultations, and environmental assessment work over many years. Site characterisation will consider the surface, subsurface, and access ways of any eventual GDF. While most site characterisation activities will centre on the area of focus in question, we'll also run surveys and investigations around these areas. They might be inshore, that is, out at sea, or onshore, which means on land. NWS is currently working towards being ready to submit the required consent applications, and it could take 2 to 3 years to get the permissions. These permissions will include at least 2 stages of public consultation for a development consent order, and the Environment Agency will consult on an environmental permit. Once we have all the permissions we need, we'll start the site characterisation works. We'll build on the experiences of other countries who recognise that a GDF is the best solution for managing radioactive waste for the long term. Some of these countries are running their own GDF programs. By learning from their site characterisation phases, we think ours will take about 10 years from when we have the necessary permissions. Of course, all of this depends on the continued support of the local communities. So, throughout the process, we'll be carrying on working with the community partnerships. NWS can only proceed to the next step if there is a positive test of public support. Once we have a suitable site, a design that will protect people and the environment, and public approval from a local community, NWS will take its decision on the final selected site, which requires approval from the Secretary of State. NWS will then be applying for planning and regulatory consents for building and operating a GDF at our preferred site. It's a gradual process to get to this point. Then building, operating, and finally closing the facility will take another 150 years or more.